characters, incidents, names, and situations used in this story are fictitious. The resemblance to any person living or dead is purely coincidental. The following video contains some horror elements and suitable for a mature audience, 16 plus. This channel and video is not for kids.
Hello friends, I am Aryan and welcome to our channel Midnight Horror Stories, where you get to hear true and scary ghost stories. In our channel, you will get to hear true and scary stories every Tuesday and Saturday. But before starting the story, all the friends who have come to this channel for the first time, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like the story, then definitely introduce yourself in the comment section. Then, let's do not take much time and start our story quickly.
Friends, today's story is about a boy living in a small town named Raipur in UP, whose name is Rajat. So let's now hear the story from Rajat's point of view. Hello friends, my name is Rajat Singh and I am a resident of a small town called Raipur located inside UP. What is Raipur now is not a very big town from the beginning. There was just a small market and there were fields all around. The life of all the people living in Raipur was simple. Apart from this, if we talk about my family, father was a teacher in the village school, the same school where I did my early studies, and my mother who was a housewife. Overall, our family was not wealthy, but they had a simple and contented life. My father always used to tell me to do silver hard honestly. The house may or may not be a bungalow, but the name should be good. Childhood was spent in sports and dreams. But by the time I got to college, I realized that as easy as reading books, getting employment is not. After completing my studies, I came to Delhi. I tried very hard to get a job somewhere, but experience was sought everywhere. In such a situation, I got a chance to work with a small property dealer. This is where the real path of my life opened. I gradually became a real estate agent. That's my profession now. I got married after coming to Delhi. My wife's name is Meena. As the name suggests, he has habits. It is his job to live in dreams, to think of the best of the house and children at all times. We have two children. Son Abhay is a 10-year-old who is passionate about cricket. He roams around with a bat day and night. And his daughter Reena is 7 years old who is lost in the world of dolls and stories. The four of us lived together in a small rented house. The house was small, but it was full of fun. Rented accommodation has its own problems. Half of the month's earnings went into the landlord's pocket. Meena would often say angrily, "Rajat ji, this fare is like a bloodsucker. If we give the same amount to the bank, we will have our own house." I would have avoided it. Look, it's not so easy to buy a house in Delhi. It's a game of millions. But in my heart, I also wanted to have a permanent home for my children. One day, a broker called me. A 3-storied building is being sold in Singhji Shastri Nagar. The price is less than half. The building is old, but investigations have revealed that it is strong. It's not going to move before 50 years. Yes, to get its old plaster uprooted. It will be repaired and renewed. The price is half the price of the land. I wondered why it was so cheap. He laughed and said that the house has a bad name. People say that the person living there is in a bad condition. But do educated people like you believe these things? I smiled. Show it first. I went to see the building with Meena and the children. From the front, the house looked a little old. I am very happy to see it, because from what I had heard, I had guessed that it would be very old, but it didn't look old at all. There was just plaster here and there. It could have been corrected again. Just a single painting would make it shine. I liked it very much. It was huge. There was a large courtyard where the children could play comfortably. There were plenty of spacious rooms. There were high ceilings, 3 floors, and an open ceiling above. Abhay jumped. "Papa, I'll make the whole ground here." Reena said to Meena, "Mummy, my doll will also have a separate room." Meena held my hand and said softly, "Rajat, man ghan is good, but I don't know why. The mind is nervous." I laughed and said, "You see fear in everything. Imagine getting such a big house at such a low price. This is God's blessing." Within a few days, the loan was approved and we bought the house. While signing the papers, I was proud in my mind that it would finally be our own home. As the news spread in the neighborhood, the curiosity of the people increased. "You won't be able to stand to see," someone said. Someone said that this house has eaten everyone. I laughed at everyone and avoided it. I still remember that day. We arrived at the new building with a truck full of luggage. The children were so excited that they started running up and down in the blink of an eye. Abhay would go to each room and say, "This will be my room." Reena took her doll and sat in a corner and said, "Here will be my doll's house." Meena went to the kitchen and said, "Such a big kitchen, I can run the whole hotel." The women in the neighborhood were standing at the door and watching. One auntie laughed and said, "Oh wow, new people have arrived. Let's see how long it lasts." The other women giggled. Meena felt a little bad, but I joked, "We are going to take root like a tree here, not going anywhere. It's a new house and no relatives come. How can this be?" In the first week, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, uncle, aunt, cousin all arrived. The brother-in-law sarcastically, "Wow, brother-in-law, a 3-storied house in Delhi must have brought a lot of money." I laughed and said, "Hey brother, it's not money, it's bank loan." Auntie said, "The house is good, but look at the walls as if they are 100 years old." She peered out of the window. "I'm not afraid at night. It's such a deserted street." Everyone laughed. Meena also smiled and said, "How scared when so many people are in the house." Gupta and his wife who lived on the corner of the street came. He jokingly said, "You guys turned out to be very brave. Otherwise, no one would want to live in this house." I asked why. Mr. Gupta said, "Oh, nothing. People say that the person who lives here suffers. But we enjoy hearing such stories. You just enjoy." Meena was a little worried, but I avoided it. For the first month, there was a lot of hustle and bustle in the house. The children called their friends to show the house. In the evening, everyone sat on the terrace and drank tea and laughed. Whenever relatives would come and go, everyone would look at the house and say, "Wow, such a big house at such a low price. Lucky is Rajat." Meena also slowly started to connect with the new house. She planted plants, decorated the kitchen, and colored the children's rooms. One day, my sister-in-law came. Reena took her doll and said, "Look, Mossy, now my doll also has a room." The sister-in-law laughed and said, "Wow, your doll will be more comfortable than us." Once, Abhay and his friends were playing cricket on the terrace. The ball landed in the neighborhood. When she went to pick it up, the neighbor's aunt said, "Your father is very brave who came to this house. Play carefully." The children returned laughing, and Abhay teased me and said, "Papa, you turn out to be a hero. Everyone feels that you are not afraid. You are not afraid." Till that time, we did not feel anything strange in the house. Everything was normal. Yes, people's words were definitely disturbed. Everyone used to say that this house eats everyone, but we did not pay attention. We were just happy that we got our own house and the future of the children will now be safe in the house. It had only been a week since we had set foot and it was still going on every day. Sometimes the fans are coming to fix them, sometimes the electric wires are being changed, and sometimes the water motor is jammed again and again. Just by looking at Meena's face, it was clear that she sits holding her head day and night. But as soon as the neighbors came to know that we were doing Griha Pravesh, everyone's curiosity increased even more. Now if someone met us on the way, they would ask us the same thing. "Brother, when is the puja? We will also have to be invited." Meena said, "Look, even if the house is broken in half, the work of housewarming will have to be done. Otherwise the relatives will taunt that they entered the house without worshipping." I also agreed. "Okay, let's keep it this Sunday. They will do as simple as they can." But that night, something happened that struck me with fear. I heard some noise upstairs. It felt like 2 people were talking to each other. I went to the door and tried to listen, but when I heard my voice, the sound stopped. I opened the door and went in and heard 2 or 3 hisses. After that, everything calmed down. I had taken the house, but now my mind has faded. Now the preparations for the housewarming became as if it were a battle. Meena and the kids started lighting up the whole house. The children cleaned the old spider webs on the walls and began to think of themselves as warriors. I repaired the first floor of the house. The house shone as the new plaster was then painted. The top 2 floors were left as they were. I also needed money. When Sunday came, there was a hustle and bustle at home from the morning. Meena's cousin Rekha was the first to arrive. Behind him, Aunt and Uncle Ji, and then slowly seeing the entire Kuba house, everyone's eyes were dazzled. Rekha said, "Wow, Didi, I have taken a big house." Then the housewarming began. Panditji came and started the puja with the bell and the crocodile. The room was filled with smoke from the fire of the Havan Kund. My aunt coughed and said, "Hey brother, is this a puja or a smoky movie? Breathing is stopping." Everyone laughed. As soon as the puja was over, everyone rushed to the feast. Meena had made potatoes, paneer, puri, rice and kheer. But the real spectacle was because of the gas cylinders. While cooking, the stove suddenly stopped. Meena said nervously, "Oh, the cylinder is probably over." Now an army of relatives has gathered. One says, "Changing the cylinder is my left-handed game." The other said, "Oh, move away, that's my job." Then everyone together started the operation to change the cylinder. Someone was holding the regulator, someone was connecting the hose. Then suddenly there was a loud hissing sound. The whole kitchen fell into silence. Everyone thought it was going to explode. Rekha screamed, "Oh run, the cylinder will explode." The whole Kuba came to the courtyard in one fell swoop and stood up. I ran away and saw that the hose was not tightened properly. That's why the gas was coming out. I immediately tightened. Everyone standing outside said with a gasp, "Otherwise today the last rites would have been performed instead of the housewarming." The whole atmosphere turned into loud laughter. Now the kids have also started their own party. Someone dropped the pudding, someone moved the rice plate up and down. The little niece said, "Uncle, it will be very fun to hide in this house. There are so many corners." She ran into the storeroom and screamed loudly from there, "It's dark here, I'm scared." Everyone laughed and said, "Don't be afraid, this is the echo of your voice." But after that, no child dared to go alone to the storeroom. The real skill of the relatives was in finding faults. Someone said, "Oh, there is moisture on the roof, it will drip in the rain." Someone said, "The railing of the stairs is so loose, if you ever break down, you will go straight to the hospital." One of the uncles has gone to the limit. He said, "This house is right, but why did you take it near the cemetery?" I grabbed my forehead. By the evening, the house resounded with laughter and light-hearted taunts. The relatives said while bidding farewell, "Oh, the house is a little old, but your courage is commendable. The house will soon take on a vibrancy." Meena and I were both tired but happy. There were cracks and dampness on the walls of the house, but the laughter of relatives and the laughter of children made the evening memorable. After the housewarming, the house seemed to settle down a little bit. Living in the old building had its own fun. Down in the street, the milkman's bell would ring early in the morning. The vegetable cart dragged and made a noise. Take the okra, fresh okra, potatoes, onions, cheap. And in the evening, the street would literally become a fair. Children played cricket, women sat at the door with cots, and men either read newspapers or played cards. We were newcomers, so everyone's eyes were on us. It's like someone has bought a new TV and the people of the neighborhood have a peep every day. Singhji lived right in front of us. He will be 55 or 60 years old, but he was ahead of a 20-year-old boy in eating and drinking. His only hobby was eating golgappas. As soon as the evening fell, the golgappa seller would knock his cart from the corner of the street. Singhji would become restless. He would unbutton his kurta, take a handkerchief and make such a sound in the whole street, "Oh brother, today golgappas are of great taste." The golgappa seller knew that Singhji was his staunch customer. He also started screaming when he saw them. "Loji, Singhji, sit down. Today you have made new water, the tamarind special." Then began Singhji's Dhama Quartet golgappa session. The first one was eaten with a snack. When the other swallowed, he closed his eyes and applauded. As the third approached, he waved his hand and said, "It must be fast and fast water, and sour." In half an hour, he would eat 15 to 20 golgappas. The rest of the people in the neighborhood would also gather. The kids would jump up and down, one would be at us, and women would joke. Singhji would take care of the stomach, but the real spectacle would be when it was time to pay the bill. The golgappa seller stops. "Hey, give me the money." So Singhji showed displeasure and said, "Oh, I was going to take your money from inside. Are you making me a thief?" The whole street echoed with laughter. The poor man with the golgappa would smile and take the money, and Singh would repeat the same round the next day. Shakuntala auntie lived in the room next to Singhji. It was the news channel of the locality. Who came to whose house, who went, whose boy got the job, whose husband returned home at what time. They would have all the reports. After a housewarming, their duty increased even more. Sometimes she would come to the door and say, "Son, why were there so many cars at your house last night? Who came?" Sometimes she would peek out the window and see what Meena was cooking in the kitchen. Meena said in a scolding, "This auntie will count how many rotis we ate while eating us one day." I joked, but gradually Meena started getting irritated. Now another neighbor was Joshi uncle. He was the most mysterious person in the entire neighborhood. He never spoke much to anyone, always alone. Early in the morning, he used to go to the terrace and do yoga and peep out of his window till late at night. The children say that Joshi uncle is a magician. At night, a red light comes from their room. We had seen many times that there was literally a dim light coming out of his room, but we thought it must be an old bulb. Well, in the neighborhood, he would have been a mixture of fear and mystery. Now let's go back to the night when it happened to us for the first time. It was noisy all day. Singhji was engrossed in Golgappa, Auntie was gossiping, and the children were playing cricket in the street. We thought the neighborhood was very funny. It was around 10:30 p.m. and we all went to sleep. The upper floor was empty and broken, so no one lived there. I was lying down with the light off when suddenly there was a faint ticking sound, like someone walking slowly upstairs. "Are you listening to Meena? Is there anyone upstairs?" I avoided. "Oh, it's damp. The wood must be rattling." But then the voice changed and the sound of a tinkling started coming, like the voice of a woman's anklet. Meena sat up and said, "This is clearly Payal's voice. Someone is upstairs." I took the flashlight and walked up the stairs. I had only reached halfway up the stairs when the sound suddenly stopped and there was complete silence. I put the flashlight on the top. There were broken walls, it was damp, but there were no humans. My heart kept pounding. I went downstairs and spoke to Meena. "Nothing. This is your delusion." Meena said, "No, I didn't hear either. The children listened too." The son said softly, "Papa, does there be an aunt upstairs?" There was silence in the room. The next day, I jokingly told this to Singhji. He laughed out loud and said, "Oh brother, this is an old building. Woods and sticks make a sound from the wind." Then he spoke in a mysterious manner. "But sometimes we also feel that someone walks upstairs. There is a sound of chime like anklets." I was shocked. Was it a joke or a fact? From that day onwards, the atmosphere changed. Everything looked normal during the day. There would be a commotion when the children were playing, but at night, the floor upstairs now reminded us every moment that there was someone, or maybe someone was. Because as the evening fell, the air of this house began to change. That day too, the evening changed like a house in the fall. A strange smell began to emanate from the dampness of the walls. The broken windows of the upper floor began to sound with the wind as if someone was whispering. I told Meena, "Let's have tea in the courtyard." We both sat on the cot. The children were also tired of playing and went to the room. The sky was half covered and the nearby lamp post was burning again and again. Meena said softly, "I think there's something in this house." I laughed and said, "You see ghosts everywhere." But to be honest, I was also feeling uneasy inside. Around midnight, there was suddenly a sound of a ton. It felt like a heavy vessel had fallen. Meena sat up startled and spoke in a panicked voice. "Did you hear?" I said, "Maybe it was a cat." But then another voice came as if someone was dragging the pot. I picked up the flashlight and headed towards the courtyard. Everything was fine in the courtyard, but as soon as I put the torch on top, my breath stopped. A shadow stood on the window above. She was like a human being, but his unusually long and thin hair were flying in the wind as if someone had turned on a fan. And the scariest thing was his eyes glowing like yellow light in the dark. She was staring straight at me. I froze like a stone. For a few moments, the shadow stood there, then slowly retreated and disappeared. I ran downstairs. Meena was standing at the door shivering. He asked nervously, "What did you see?" That's all that came out of my mouth. Someone was standing at the window. The children also woke up and started crying. I asked them to be entertained. There was nothing. Maybe it was wind. But the fear in my eyes was clearly read by Meena. We all sat in the same room that night. I turned on all the lights, but there were voices coming from above. Sometimes a knock, sometimes the sound of someone's footsteps. No one dared to go upstairs. In the morning, everything seemed normal. The sunlight came and the courtyard began to glow, but the terror of the night was clearly visible on our faces. The children refused to go to school. Meena kept asking me the same question over and over again. You really didn't see anyone standing at the window? I nodded silently. When I came out, some people in the locality were talking to each other. I saw that they could also be heard. Who knows if this house has ever been repaired? The previous ones had fled without being told. I understood that people knew something, but no one wants to be clear. That night, I lay down in bed exhausted. Meena came as soon as she fell asleep. I found myself standing in the courtyard of the same house, but this time the courtyard was full of light. The walls were glowing. It's like I'm standing in a castle. A beautiful boy and girl were standing in front of me. They were beautiful and young. The faces of both were unusually attractive, just like the statues. The girl had fire in her eyes and terrible anger on the boy. They both said together, "Why have you taken over our house?" His voice echoed throughout the house. I trembled with fear. Suddenly his eyes began to glow and his tongue split into 2 pieces. I screamed like a serpent.
Meena was standing next to me. She was scared. He asked in a frightened voice, "What happened? Why are you sweating?" I said in a trembling voice, "Meena, I've seen them in a dream. They were serpents and they were saying that this is their house." After that scary night, the morning sun seemed like a blessing. Trees and plants were shining in the courtyard, birds were chirping, and the noise of children could be heard in the street. Meena said, "Look, no matter how scary the night is, everything seems so cute in the morning." I nodded, but inside my heart there was still that Meena spinning. That evening, all the children in the locality started playing cricket. The ball repeatedly hit the wall and went inside, and the children were making noise, and suddenly the ball went into the broken window above. The kids screamed, "Uncle, our balls went up!" I looked up. There was like a slight shadow behind the window. I immediately looked away so that no one would suspect it, but the same fear settled in the heart. That shadow had come again. I was missing the same Meena again and again. When I finally woke up, the same Meena came again. This time, the same beautiful girl and young man were in front of me, but this time, their faces were even terrifying. The young man roared, "This house is ours. Leave it, or you will regret it." His eyes turned yellow again, and the tongue was like a cracked nose. I sat up nervously. Sweat was dripping from my face. Seeing my condition, Meena was scared. He looked at me with worried eyes and asked, "Did the same Meena come again?" I said softly, "Yes," and this time it was even scarier. The next day, the routine started again. The milkman came, to him a big iron box and scales on his shoulder. As soon as he measured the milk, Mrs. Verma shouted, "Oh, this is water!" The milkman said, "No, sister, these are morning dewdrops." All the women burst into laughter. Ms. Rathor said, "Dewdrops fall in the fields. How did it get into your milk?" The milkman turned red and said, "You guys are defaming me." In the middle of their quarrel, I intervened and said, "Okay, brother, add some more milk so that the sister's suspicion is erased." He rattled and poured some more milk and went away muttering. The women of the neighborhood started laughing again. It was in these small incidents that we used to meet the people of the locality. Entering another house and sitting was suffocating. It was fun to go out and talk. A strange thing happened between the laughs and jokes. Meena was boiling milk. When she remembered, she ran inside, and the milk had boiled up to the top. Everyone thought that now the milk will fall and make the stove dirty, but suddenly it was as if someone had stopped him with an invisible hand. The milk calmed down on its own. Not a drop fell out of the pot. After that, the milk gradually started decreasing. All the milk was empty in the eyes of us. Not a drop of milk was left, as if someone has absorbed it. Everyone was shocked and very scared. In the evening, the elderly Thakur Saheb of the neighborhood came to visit. He said while leaning on the stick, "Son, the house is very nice. Keep in mind that this land is very old." I asked, "Why, Thakurji? What's so special about it?" He said in a low voice, "It is said that once upon a time there was a dwelling of serpents here.
There was a very old well under this courtyard, and there are many secrets associated with that well. The pain ran through my whole body. Mina looked at me in fear, but Takuji laughed again. "Oh, I'm just kidding. It's an old thing. Who knows if it's true or false?" But the glint in his eyes made me think. That night, sleep was far from sight. I kept thinking about it over and over again. Is there really a story of the serpent in this house? What would I do if this really happened? What will happen to me? I bought this house by taking a loan. By the way, the money is less in terms of price, but for me, it took a lifetime of earnings. There were sounds of dogs barking from outside. The wind was coming in through the window like a low whisper. My heart was saying that this is not all just a coincidence. The morning sun came, but the darkness of the night did not descend from the mind. The dreams of the previous night, the same beautiful man and woman, the same melting yellow eyes kept coming back again and again. There was moisture in the air, as if the walls were breathing, and the soil in the courtyard also wanted to repeat something old. The first change took place in the kitchen and puja corner. Mina poured water into the tulsi as usual. The jug of water was very clean, but as soon as his stream fell into the tulsi pot, a faint hiss came out of the soil. Such ones are heard more within the chest than in the ears. We both froze. Mina's voice trembled. She said, "Did you hear that voice?" I composed myself. Perhaps the soil is filled with air. The bubbles will burst. I knew he didn't understand this excuse. The green color of the tulsi faded in an instant, and 2 leaves fell off for no reason. A disc mark appeared on the side of the pot. It was as if some round, smooth thing had taken off the skin by staying there for a moment. I touched it with my finger. The surface was hot, not cold. It was strangely hot. Mina shook her hand and said, "Leave it. I will put incense sticks." When the incense sticks are lit, the smoke does not go up. Instead, it kept spinning round and round on top of the pot for some time, as if trapped in an invisible sphere. I left it there, because now the moisture has frozen when I return, and in that moisture there was something like a very fine bark, like the skin of a snake. I blinked, but it disappeared in an instant. In the afternoon, a slight damp stain appeared on the floor of the courtyard. At first we did not pay attention, but in no time the stain spread and turned into a round shape. It was just like a circle drawn in a way. This circle was distinctly visible on the floor and looked completely different from the whiteness of the old cement. Along the edge of the circle, the soil felt a little sunken, as if there was a hollow underneath. I remembered Thakur Sahib's words that there is an old well under this courtyard. I knelt down and put my ear to it. At first, I didn't hear anything. Then it felt like a dripping sound was coming from somewhere deep inside.
But it wasn't the sound of water. It was as if someone was slamming their finger on a stone. Mina became restless. This goal mark was not here before. I said it would be because of the humidity, but my hand automatically stayed on the floor. The circle that had just been formed was not cold, but there was a slight heat, as if someone was breathing from within the earth. As the circle was formed, something shone in one place. I scraped it with my fingernail. It was a fine layer of the skins of a thin, transparent snake. It was so fine that if you put it in the fingers, it would fly in the air. But it was changing color in the light. It was light red in color. Then it became like a brass color. Seeing this, I was terrified. I let go of that layer, then the layer rotated with the wind and then went into the middle of the same circle, as if it were his place. The atmosphere at home that night was very strange. After a long day's fatigue, everyone went to sleep. But sleep was far from the eyes. Water dripping from the dampness on the walls, the cool breeze coming through the windows, and the silence of the empty room upstairs. Together the atmosphere was overwhelming. I tossed and turned and saw Mina getting up in a hurry again and again. I asked softly, "What happened, Mina? Why can't you sleep?" She said nervously, just a while ago it felt like someone whispered near my ear. Did you hear a snake-like hiss? I tried to laugh and said, you're getting that, it's an old house. When the wind whistles, such sounds come. But deep down, I was also feeling uneasy. In the morning, another strange thing happened. Both of my children were playing in the courtyard. Suddenly, my little daughter Ria lay down on the ground and started acting with the hood raised. The son also stuck out his tongue and made a sound like a serpent. I was shocked and scolded them. Are you crazy? What are you doing with all this? Ria said innocently, Papa came to Uncle Auntie at night. They taught us. He said play like this. Meena and I looked at each other. I asked angrily, which Uncle Auntie? Ria gave a very clear answer. They were very beautiful. Auntie was wearing a red sari, Uncle wore a white kurta and also had a shiny snake with him. I was terrified to hear this. That was the afternoon. Meena was cutting vegetables in the kitchen. Suddenly he screamed. When I ran to the door, I saw that the shape of the moisture on the wall just above the stove was slowly changing. That shape looked exactly like the hood of the nose. Meena said tremblingly, look, it's like a snake. Just a while ago there was nothing there. I picked up a bucket of water and threw it at the wall. The water flew away, but the shape remained the same and gradually became deeper. In the evening, I filled water from the hand pump. As soon as I filled the bucket, my eyes fell on the water. A slight red shadow was shining in it. It's as if someone has mixed blood in it. I looked at him with his hands in fear. The water was crystal clear, but as soon as I blinked, the same red color appeared. I immediately turned the bucket over. Meena asked, what are you doing? Why did you throw away the water? I didn't say anything. That's all he said. This water is not good. That night there was a knock on the door. When the door opened, Thakurji was standing outside, the same elderly neighbor whose house was right in front of our house. There was a strange seriousness in his eyes. He said softly, son, don't be afraid, but be careful. This place is not ordinary. What your children have seen is not a game, it's true. I hesitantly asked, what do you mean, Thakurji? He said in a loud voice, years ago a pair of serpents lived on this land. People say that there was a temple here where he was worshipped, but when this building was built, the place was demolished. Since then it has been cursed. Whoever lives here does not live in peace. Meena panicked and said, so why did we come here? Thakurji bowed his head. They said, I tried to stop you, but you didn't listen. Hearing these words, the ground slipped under my feet. That night when everyone was asleep, I suddenly woke up. A faint light was coming in from the window of the room. I saw two shadows standing in the courtyard across the window. The bodies of both a man and a woman were shining, and behind them sat a huge serpent and a serpent coiled. I was stunned. Then the woman raised her hand to me and said angrily, this is our house. Why did you occupy our house? Flames were coming out of her eyes. I screamed and sat up. Meena also woke up. I was drenched in sweat, but there was no one outside the window. After that night, I was convinced that this house was not just an old house. This is the cursed haunt of the serpent, and perhaps now our lives were also under that curse. After that night, Meena and I were completely broken. The children were also now doing strange things every day. Sometimes they would suddenly hiss. Sometimes they laugh without any reason. Sometimes they say, Papa, Nag Nagin, Uncle Auntie are calling us to play. Hearing this, our hearts would tremble. Eventually, I decided that I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I went straight to Thakurji and said, now save us, Thakurji, otherwise our children will get out of hand. He thought for a while. There is only one solution. The part of the temple which was demolished will have to be worshipped again. Only then will souls find peace. He called an old Panditji. As soon as Panditji arrived, stepping on the threshold of the house, he said, there is a very heavy place. Here is the abode of the serpent. They have to be brought to peace. Otherwise, no family will be able to live in peace. On the night of the puja, the entire mohalla gathered. A Havan Kund was built in the courtyard of the house. The whole atmosphere was trembling with the echo of mantras. As soon as the oblation was made, the wind suddenly picked up. The doors began to close automatically. The windows began to ring like explosions. The children began to hiss like a nose again. Seeing this, Meena was very scared.
She screamed, "Panditji, please do something quickly. Our children will die." Panditji closed his eyes and intensified the mantras. Just then, two figures of serpents began to emerge from the smoke in the middle of the courtyard. There was fire in their eyes. There was anger on their faces. "Nagin Garji, we said this is our house. Why do you come again and again?" The serpent also hissed, "As long as man lives on this land, he will be destroyed." Panditji, sensing their strength, apologized to us and left quietly. I was told to call a big tantric. Saying this, he left. Then I saw that the hiss of snakes could be heard from between the walls of the room. I was very scared. Meena also just smiled slightly, but there was an unknown fear floating in his eyes. After a few days, we thought that the atmosphere should change. Meena and the children said, "Let's have a picnic at the lake on the edge of the nearby forest. Everyone's mood will be fine." I, Abhay, Naina and Meena packed the luggage in the car and left. Laughter went on all the way. But as soon as we reached the lake shore, we found the atmosphere strange and heavy. The chirping of birds was suddenly silenced. We spread a sheet in the shade of the trees and were about to take out the food. Then suddenly two strangers came there, a boy and a girl. Now the birds were chirping all of a sudden. They screamed so loudly that they had seen something scary that was so frightening to them. The boy was tall and wide. His eyes were completely red, as if someone had filled them with embers. The girl was blonde, but the face was strangely serious. His gait was as if he was slipping. At first, we thought that maybe he had come for a picnic too. But when he looked at us, it seemed as if the fire of anger was burning in his eyes. The girl said in a low voice, "Why are you here?" As soon as I heard his voice, I was filled with awe. I dared to say, "We just came to have a picnic. The place is open to everyone, right?" The boy came closer to us angrily. His actions were strange. His hands suddenly spread out like claws instead of fists, and the nails looked much bigger. The boy said, "This place is not for everyone. It's ours. You can't even sit here." I noticed that the girl's eyes were changing momentarily. Sometimes it was green, sometimes yellow, sometimes sparkling red. We were shocked. Meena gently grabbed my hand. We thought it would be better to get out of here. But as soon as we started to get up, the girl hissed and said, "Do you think you will run away like this? Remember, you have stepped into that house which is our heritage. That house and this place are both connected to our souls." My heart was shaken to hear this. I remembered that serpent with the serpent. Was it there? Was it the serpent standing in front of us in human form? I said, "You can't scare us. It's all drama." But then the boy's tongue split into two parts and came out, and drops of blood started dripping from the girl's eyes. The girl said in a low voice, "You have offended us. Now you will not be able to escape." And after that, both of them disappeared like smoke in the air. We quickly packed up our belongings and escaped. Everyone was terribly scared. On the way, no one dared to say anything. But there was only one question resonating in my mind. Was he really human, or the same blood-nosed and serpentine that I used to see in my dreams? We were all completely silent since returning from the picnic. The children and Meena made it clear that all was well, but the nervousness on their faces was not hidden. While eating dinner, Meena suddenly spoke. Even today, the face of that girl and boy is moving in front of the eyes. It still feels like their eyes will burn us to ashes. I said, "You felt the same way?" I feel that these are the same serpents and serpentines that I have been seeing in my dreams. Meena said in horror, "Just do it now. Don't say intimidating things." They were human. There were no serpents. But less confident in his words, there was more fear. Something happened that night that turned our suspicions into belief. It was about midnight. I was writing when suddenly someone knocked on the window. The knock was slow, but it sounded very scary. I pulled back the curtain and peered out. There was silence, but there were two figures standing in the grass. It was the same boy and girl. His eyes glowed like embers even in the dark. My heart pounded loudly. Then the girl's voice echoed, "Where were you? This house is ours. Why did you come back here?" I sat there in fear.
Then Abhay and Meena also came out. As soon as he saw them, their faces turned white. Now they were both inside our room. We didn't know when the door opened. The girl suddenly began to change into her true form. Her face lengthened and turned into a hood. The hair began to move like a serpent, and his tongue hissed out. The boy also began to change. His body was thick and long, and red shiny scales began to appear on the skins. His eyes were bloodshot. The three of us retreated. Abhay fell right there. The serpent's voice echoed. We are Raktanag and Raktanagin. We lived on this land centuries ago. Human greed deceived us. We were tricked, and then we were cursed. Meena cried and said, "What curse?" Blood started flowing from the serpent's eyes. We are cursed that as long as our souls are bound to this house and this lake, we will not be able to be free from peace. And whoever lives in this house will be the victim of our fire and poison. I said, trembling, "But what have we done to you? We have not done anything." He hissed his nose and said, "Whoever comes to our area is bound by our fate. You must listen to the story of our curse, because now your life is also connected to it." Then he took a deep breath and sat down on the ground, his eyes fixed on the sky. He said that many years ago we were ordinary snakes. They lived among humans. But one day a tantric killed us by trick to gain our power. Our souls were bound by blood. From then on, I was called Raktanag. The serpent's voice trembled. She said, "Our love is incomplete. We could not get rid of it. Every human being who comes into this house reminds us of our unfulfilled word. And unless a human being frees our souls, this curse will continue." Hearing his words, our souls trembled. Meena burst into tears. I stood up and said, "Is there any way by which you can be free and save us too?" The serpent and the serpentine looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with blood instead of tears. "There are solutions," she said, "but you'll have to find out yourself. If we knew, we would have been free by now. If you want to save your life, you have to find out the solution yourself. Until then, we won't say anything to you. But when we know you're passing free time, if you don't want to do anything, we won't leave you alive." We all were stunned. This meant that we would have to buy this disaster. And then the light in the room turned off automatically. In the darkness, only the sound of hissing was echoing, which was clearly understandable. Think about it, humans. It was already dark. The serpent and the serpentine suddenly disappeared as if turning into smoke. Both of us, Meena and I, were drenched in sweat while standing. I had already let Abhay out of here. I said in a trembling voice, "It was this Meena, isn't it?" Meena said in a frightened voice, "No, Rajat, it wasn't Meena."
That's really what they were. Meena sat down on the ground. She was very scared. His eyes were red from crying. Then a hiss echoed throughout the house at once. It felt like hundreds of snakes crawling inside the walls. Shadows began to wave behind the windows of the room. All of our hearts seemed to jump out of our chests. That night, Meena was the first to get a shock. She was tossing and turning in her sleep. Then he suddenly screamed. We ran to him. His eyes were closed, but the lips were moving on their own. Meena was speaking sleepily. "Leave this house, or the blood serpent will not leave you alive." I shook him up, but as soon as his eyes opened, green began to glow. For a moment, she looked like a serpent. I was stunned, and the thought came to my mind, was Meena affected by the blood serpent? After a few days, we decided that we had to know the truth. The three again arrived at the shore of the lake where we had previously gone for a picnic. The lake was perfectly calm, but red stains were floating on its surface. It was as if blood had dissolved in the water. Then suddenly bubbles rose from the middle of the lake, and then the same boy and girl appeared. But this time, his appearance was even more terrifying. Blood was literally dripping from the boy's eyes. The girl's face had become half human and half serpent. He hissed loudly and said, "I warned you that you are now part of our curse." After returning from the lake, my condition started deteriorating. Sometimes blue-black marks would appear on my body. Sometimes my eyes would suddenly turn red. I would look at myself in the mirror and scream about what this was happening to me. It was like poison was running through my veins. Meena was very scared. He called the doctor. He did a lot of tests, but every time the tests were completely normal. The doctor said there was nothing wrong with his body. Maybe it was a mental problem, but we knew it wasn't a mental illness. It was the curse of the blood nogs. One night it happened that snakes literally started raining from the roof of the house. Small and large, black, yellow, poisonous snakes were crawling everywhere, hissing. Mina screamed and crouched in the corner. Apai fell unconscious out of fear. I saw that all those snakes had red eyes, and they came not to bite us, but to stare at us. After a few moments, they all disappeared like they had never been, but the smell of snakes and their rustling echoed in the room for a long time. The next morning, the boy and the girl were again found standing in our courtyard. His voice was clear this time. The snake said, "Don't run away now, humans. This house is no longer yours, but your body and soul are both ours." The serpent hissed, "You can't get us out of here. This place is ours, and now you too will bear our curse." Hearing his words, it felt as if our breath had stopped. Now every night we were haunted by different horrors. Sometimes blood would start leaking from the walls. Sometimes the face of the serpent would appear on the window. I was slowly getting weaker. Mina would sometimes stare at me with serpent-like eyes for no reason. I think about it day and night. Are we really all caught in this curse? Is there no way out of this now? The sky was cloudy that night. The lightning was thundering and the winds were blowing. We were all sitting in the room. Suddenly, all the lights in the house went out at once. There was pitch darkness all around. Only the flash of electricity coming from the windows would illuminate the room for a moment. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound from the floor. We looked below. Hundreds of small snakes were crawling in the room. Mina clung to me, screaming. I tried to light a flashlight, but then two huge shadows appeared on the wall. It was a Roktanog and a Roktanoggin. In the flash of lightning, I could clearly see their true form. The body of the blood serpent was half human and half that of a terrifying serpent. His eyes were burning like fireballs, and his tongue was long and divided into two halves. The blood noggin was even more terrifying. Her face looked beautiful, and both of them were hissing in horror, and a red light was coming out of their eyes. He hissed loudly, "We gave a warning, but you don't believe in humans. Now you will see what is the real power of the blood serpent." As soon as he said that, the whole house began to change. The walls were filled with cracks, and snakes began to emerge from them. We all panicked and wanted to run away, but the door was closed on its own. Mina fainted, screaming in fear. I was trying to break open the door when the serpent picked up its hood and slammed it to the ground. The clock had struck 12 o'clock that night, when suddenly there was silence in the whole house. The wind stopped blowing. The fan also stopped on its own. The pictures hanging on the walls began to shake, and the door began to make a shrapnel sound. Then I looked out the window and saw two figures standing in the dark, a boy and a girl. But this time they were not in human form. Lightning flashed, and for a moment their appearance was clear. The boy's body had grown as long as a full nog. Red, shining scales glistened on his skin. His eyes were burning like fireballs. The girl's face had become half human and half serpent. Her hair was waving like a hissing snake, and a yellow light was emanating from her eyes. They hissed loudly together. The serpent said, "We warned you, but you didn't vacate the house." As soon as he said that, the whole house began to change. The red liquid began to drip from the ceiling as if blood is oozing. Cracks appeared on the walls, and small black serpents began to crawl out of them. Hundreds of snakes suddenly rustled on the floor. We all hid in the corner of the room. Suddenly, Mina's eyes turned upside down, and her body began to tremble. She got up on her own and hissed like a serpent. Mina spoke in a deep voice. "This house is no longer human. It's theirs." His face changed to look like a serpent. I was stunned and screamed, "Mina, what have you become?" The blood serpent slammed the hood to the ground. The whole house trembled as if there had been an earthquake. The dishes began to fall. The glass was shattered and shattered. Hundreds of snakes stood around us in a circle. Each of them had red blood eyes. The blood serpent hissed, "Now you humans will bear our curse."
If you step into this house, you will not be able to go out alive." We were all shaking badly. I tried to break open the door again and again, but it was as if the door had been made of stone. Mina's eyes were shining like serpents, and she was slowly pitting against us. That night, we realized that this house was no longer ours. This blood noggin has become a den of snakes and serpents. Disturbed by the constant horrific events, I said to Mina, "Enough is enough. We will have to call a monk or a snake charmer."
Only that serpent can deal with the serpent. There was an old snake charmer famous in the village who was known far and wide for his damru and bean. He was said to have tamed dreaded snakes several times. We persuaded him with great difficulty. He said, "You have no idea who you are involved with. But if the serpent and the serpent have taken an oath, then they can be stopped only by spiritual practice and power." There was confidence in his eyes. We hoped that maybe he would save us. At exactly 12 in the night, he came to our house with his drum, bean, and a bag of mantras. As soon as he crossed the threshold, the walls of the house began to shake. He came in. He began to play the harp. Slow melodies floated in the air. Immediately, snakes started coming out of the corners of the house, small, big, of every color. But as soon as the snake charmer's bean sounded, they all came together and sat down with a coil. For the first time, there was a little relief in our hearts. Suddenly, a loud hiss sounded. Black smoke billowed from the ceiling of the room, and from the middle of it, Raktanag and Raktanagin appeared. His appearance was even more frightening than before. Raktanag's eyes were burning like burning embers. The serpent's face was a mixture of human and serpent. His tongue was hissing and sticking out. She said, "You foolish man, have you come to stop us? What do you know about our strength?" The snake charmer stood fearlessly. He started playing the drum loudly and started chanting mantras. Hundreds of small snakes began to run away from him, being subdued. He raised Bean's voice even higher. The snake charmer screamed, "Now you will end, Raktanag. Your curse will be broken today." But suddenly, the snake roared loudly. Its sound was so terrible that the damru fell from the snake charmer's hand. The snake raised its hood and just took a look at the snake charmer, and the serpent's body started trembling. The serpent stepped forward and hissed, saying, "Your bin can control human snakes, but not us. We are cursed souls. We are stronger than death." Suddenly, his hair turned into a snake and he grabbed the snake charmer. The snake charmer began to writhe. He tried to recite the mantra, but the serpent's grip was so strong that his voice was choked. The blood serpent smashed its hood and rays of fire came out of its eyes. In an instant, the snake charmer's body turned black and he fell dead to the ground. His beam broke on its own and shattered into two parts. We were all in shock. Mina started crying tremblingly. I shouted, "Why did you kill him? He was just here to help us. No human being can stop us. Remember, now this house is ours and you are our toys." Saying this, both of them disappeared like smoke. The room fell silent. But the lifeless body of the snake charmer lying on the ground was reminding us that we were now really trapped. The snake charmer was lying dead. His broken bean was strewn on the ground, and there was a death silence in the house. We stared at that lifeless body. Tears started coming out of my eyes. I thought, if he can't save us, who will save us? Just then, the door slammed shut on its own and a hissing sound came. Now this house is just ours. That night, Mina started behaving strangely. She would suddenly wake up in a deep sleep and her eyes would glow like a serpent. Once I saw her caressing the wall in the kitchen, as if there was someone there. In a low voice, he hissed, "Mistress, I'm ready." Hearing this, my soul trembled. I awoke Abhay. But when we got back, Mina was absolutely normal, as if nothing had happened. Gradually, the effect of the serpent on Mina deepened. Sometimes, his eyes would turn green in an instant. Sometimes, his voice hissed like a serpent. Once in front of Abhay, he stuck his tongue out in two. Abhay screamed and retreated. He said in a frightened voice, "No, it's not Mummy, it's someone else." Mina suddenly laughed, but her laughter was not human, but like the hiss of a serpent. After the death of the snake charmer, the condition of the house worsened. Sometimes, the face of the serpent would appear on the roof. Sometimes, a blood snake was seen standing on the window. We would have tried to escape, but as soon as they went to the door, hundreds of snakes would block the way. Home wasn't just home anymore. It had become the living haunt of the serpent. One night, Mina suddenly stood in the middle of the room. His eyes were completely like serpents. The hair began to wavy on its own. She hissed loudly and said that I am no longer human. Now I am his shadow. Abhay fell at her feet and started crying. "No, Mama, please come to your senses. I can't lose you." but Meena pushed him aside. His strength was so great that Abhay went away and hit the wall and fell unconscious. I was stunned with fear. Right in front of me, Meena was slowly transforming into a serpent. Then black smoke filled the room and Raktanag said, "Now she is ours." He no longer existed in the human world. Now both this house and this woman are ours forever. His hiss was so loud that the whole house shook. Hundreds of snakes began to fall down like a waterfall from the walls. I was thinking of only one thing. Has Meena become a serpent forever? Will we ever get out of this house? After the death of the snake charmer, the atmosphere in the house became even more frightening. Meena had become half a serpent. The silver was broken and I waited for death every night. But then an elder in the village advised us that the snake we are battling is not an ordinary snake. They are cursed souls. Only a tantric can liberate them. A tantric, Indrajit Maharaj, has returned from the Himalayas after performing sadhana. He has mastered the art of eliminating the curse of all types of snakes, serpents and living beings. We had no other choice. We called those tantric Maharajas. I brought them with me. He had a Rudraksh garland around his neck, trident and damru in hand. There was a radiance in his eyes and his face looked radiant from austerity. As soon as he stepped on the door, he said in a deep voice, "Calm down souls, you will be liberated today." As soon as he began to recite the mantra, the whole house began to tremble. Blood began to flow from the walls. Snakes came out of the floor and hissed. Suddenly, a smoke balloon rose in the room and Raktanagin appeared. His eyes were burning with anger. Raktanag roared and said, "Foolish man, you want to tie us? We are stronger than death." But the Tantric Maharaj was not afraid at all. He picked up the trident and struck the ground and chanted the mantra aloud. As the chants echoed, Meena suddenly began to scream. Her body trembled and her eyes became completely like serpents. She fell to the ground in agony and started speaking in the voice of a serpent. Meena hissed in a serpent's voice, "You won't be able to stop me." And after saying this, she started banging her head on the ground. Seeing his condition, I was distraught. I ran towards him. Seeing me upset like this, the Tantric Maharaj raised his hand and stopped and said, "This is a time of trial. If I complete the sadhana, Meena will be liberated. Otherwise, she will become a serpent forever." I quietly sat on one side and watched the whole proceedings. The Tantric lit the fire and started chanting. The flames rose in the air and the serpentesses began to retreat. The serpent became restless and said, "No, this fire will burn us. Stop us." The blood serpent hissed loudly and wanted to attack, but the Tantric stopped him by releasing the mantra with a trident. The flames started swirling around the serpentess. Meena was writhing on the ground. Suddenly he screamed and a shadow of smoke came out of his body. He took the form of a shadow serpent and stood near Raktanag. Now the real serpentess was in front of us. They were both caught in a fire encirclement. The Tantric made the chants louder and louder. With a terrifying scream, the blood serpent and the serpentess's body slowly disappeared, turning into smoke. There was only ash and silence in the air. The house suddenly became quiet. The cracks in the walls were filled. The blood stopped flowing. The snakes disappeared. Meena was lying unconscious, but now his eyes were normal. I hugged him and cried. The Tantric Maharaj said in a tired voice, "It's all over now. Those souls have been liberated. Your home is safe now." After that night, the house never changed again. The hiss of the serpent, the fear of snakes and the drops of blood all disappeared. But even today, when I remember that night, my body shudders, because I saw with my own eyes the spirit of the cursed blood serpent and serpentess that had been wandering for centuries in search of redemption. The serpent had been freed and my house was also in order, but the dreams were coming to us again and again. We could see serpents in them. When I asked Thakur Sahib about this, he said that he had a temple here years ago. People worshipped him, but when this building was built, they were buried alive in the ground. Now their souls have definitely been liberated, but there are many other karmas that have been left that are to be done. It would be better if you rebuild their temple. You will also receive his grace. In the morning, we decided that we would not live in this house anymore, even if it means incurring losses, but it's better to go from here. We built a very big Nagin temple in that part of the courtyard. After the puja, the people of the locality said for the first time, now there will be peace here. I sold the house and bought a new house in another place. Yes, it was certain that I did not incur any loss in selling the house. The house I bought sold for 4 times the amount I had bought. And the house I bought was cheap. I don't even sell the house, but the one who bought that house was a pious merchant. He said, I will make this Nag-Nagin temple in the house more grand. I'll get the decorations done. Then I will keep that entire house as a dharmshala from where people from far and wide will come to see it. My business will also run. In this, because he had a hotel business nearby. He wasn't moving, and that's exactly what Seth said. Their hotel was gone. In a way, I benefited. There was no damage. Today, when I look back after many years, it seems that sometimes we humans play with nature and faith for our convenience. The price has to be paid for it by future generations. That house is still standing today, but now the temple bells ring there. And I think if we had not given peace to the soul of the serpent in time, then perhaps our story would have remained incomplete. Since then, no incident has happened, and it is not that I felt any curse while living in that house. Both of my children are successful today. My family is happy.
So friends, this was our story today. How did you like the story? Please do tell me by commenting in the comment box. And also, those who haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel. Take care of yourself and your family. I will meet you soon with a new story. Thank you.